Hey, everybody, and welcome into the Cannversation, where we intend to destigmatize the conversation around cannabis. We hope have a little fun along the way. I'm your host, Dave Briggs, former CNN, NBC Sports, Fox News anchor, and host at Turner Sports. And tonight, joined by co-host, you might know him as the Giants' all-time leading receiver in yards, catches, touchdowns, or as a guest here on the Cannversation. He is Amani Toomer. What's going on, Amani?
Hey, what's going on, Dave? Good to see you.
Now, look, Eli has his own show, so I guess it's time you got your own show.
Yeah, it's funny. It's really funny. Our whole team at some point been in the media. Like it's like you go to New York and it's basically like you're playing football for the Giants, but yet you're also auditioning for for some radio show or TV show or something like that. So it's good. It's a great place it's a good time. It's a great place to be to play, and I just had a great time with New York.
You are the first to talk cannabis on a show, so you got them beat. And also no stranger to the media is tonight's guest, Tiki Barber, the all-time leading rusher for the Giants, 15th all-time in total yards, more than 15,000 total yards. He's also one of 7 guys all-time with 2,000 total yards in 3+ seasons. And this dude did it in his final 3 seasons, suggesting, he probably could have gone a few more years, but he's heard that. Tiki Barber, what's up, my man?
All's good, Dave. Tom, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
What you failed to mention, Dave, is that I also retired as the all-time leading receiver in receptions. And then Tom broke my joint the next year. Trust me.
Yeah. You know why? Because we played with Danny Cannell. All he would do was throw check down.
That's all he did.
And we were I was like, come on now.
By the way, Dave, you don't know this. Tom, you might remember this. The all-time single game receiving record for receptions. I got it. Because he threw me 13 checkdowns.
Oh, it was infuriating. We'd run the same play over and over all the way down the field. It was all goes. And then they'd be like Tiki, like scat or something like that. So we'd be running down the field, taking the top of the coverage, and they'd throw the ball to Tiki, and then we had to turn around and block. I mean, that's a double whammy. We're only not getting the ball, but now we have to block. It was a terrible day.
That's right. And then to make things worse than that, too. Remember that time in Arizona? I'm like, dude, I can't return punts. You got to return the punts. I can't do it today. You got to do it. You're like, dude, I'm outside. I'm running goes all day.
I had heat exhaustion that day.
I know. That was the one and only time I ever had to get an IV in my life. That was the only time I had to get an IV because I was done.
I just remember walking back to the locker room, like in Arizona, just like totally incoherent. And they were like, "You need an IV?" I'm like, "No, I don't need an IV. Just give me some water." And they're like, "No, but you're too far past that." I was like, "I just need some water." And then Howard came in and was like, "Monty, we're gonna give you an ID." I was like, "All right, Howard."
Do you guys bust Cannell's chops about being checked down, Danny?
I do.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, Tiki loved him.
I loved them. It was great for me. It was great for me. I just padded the stats, especially in those games where we would be behind. Because early in our career, we had some bad teams. We had a couple of good teams. It was some bad teams. So we're playing hurry up offense the whole game. And even though I wasn't starting a lot then, I was in the game because we were in our sub personnel. So I loved it. That was great. I'm getting my touches.
He's a bonus getter. That guy will get you your bonus on catches at the end.
That's right. That's why all these fantasy people are like, Teak, I loved you when you were playing because you were sneaky. You'd get all these, like in the PPR leagues. I'd get all these catches. So they love me.
Do either of you guys play fantasy?
I do a little bit.
I tried to play a year and it was too stressful. And then like being on the other side of it, going into a game, you could be on the game plan. But if the defense switches something, you are completely out. So it's really, it's a roll of the dice.
That's right. That's right. I suck at it. I play, but I suck at it. Because I think too much, I think.
Do you ever draft giants or do you stay away from them entirely?
The last couple of years, there haven't been a ton. I mean, Saquon, his second year, and I couldn't get him. I wanted to get him, but I couldn't get him. And I'm glad I didn't because he got hurt.
Yeah.
So, so I've stayed away from him. And the same thing with Odell. Like Odell was like, oh, I got to get Odell. And he'd go before I could draft him. And then he get hurt. So I was like, all right, I'm not taking Giants.
Okay.
It's not worth it.
Because you brought them both up, we have to talk about those guys. Is Saquon ever going to realize that enormous potential, or is he going to be that guy that just had so much and never got healthy, never got back to that point? And frankly, the same question for OBJ.
Well, I mean, for Saquon, you know this too, because you saw me behind a great offensive line. They didn't get the fanfare, those guys up front that I ran behind. But without that, it doesn't matter. I mean, I rushed for 10,000 yards because I had 5, really 6, if you count Luke and David Deal. I had 6 like really good offensive linemen who worked well together. Ever since the Giants have drafted Saquon, it's a rotating door of guys. And they drafted, the Pert in the 3rd round and Andrew Thomas in the 1st round 2 years ago. And I mean, maybe they work it out, but right now they don't look real good. And so it's hard as a runner to get the ball side saddle. You're not even like behind the quarterback anymore. You're side saddle. So you're taking side steps and you're getting hit before you even get a chance to touch the football. So he will be good as long as his line gets good. Put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I just seen improvement from him every week, right? So he's feeling a lot more comfortable. He had a couple moves in this last week's game. He had a spin move, and he was really athletic. You're like, okay, that's the old Saquon. But he wasn't attacking and getting upfield. And it's funny, you watch the game in the beginning, and you watch the difference between Kamara catching getting the ball from the quarterback and Saquon, and it's like 2 different people.
That's right.
But then towards the 4th quarter, it totally flipped, and Saquon is running downhill. It's the saying we all use in football, running downhill. And Alvin Kamara is sitting there kind of, dancing and trying to figure out, find a hole. And I really believe in Saquon. I think scoring a touchdown to finish off a game in overtime in a place where the Giants haven't won in a long time, that's huge for your momentum, because touchdowns come in bunches, and I think he had two on Sunday, and I'm really bullish on him.
I'm optimistic as well. By the way, that's like sweet revenge in New Orleans, because people don't remember, but that Joe Horn game, like putting that that happened against us. That was embarrassing. Joe Horn stashed a cell phone. I mean, who the hell does that?
Yeah.
Does that still stick in your craw?
Oh my God, yes, of course.
It was embarrassing.
He stashed the cell phone, dude, because he knew he was going to score in that end zone.
And the funny thing about it was he scored a couple times that game, and he kind of ran out of stuff to do. He's like, I have a cell phone. I have this. Oh my God. He started put stuff in at halftime just to pull out the touchdown.
It was embarrassing, Dave, because he was clowning us. And every time we scored, we knew it. And there was nothing we could do about it. That was the problem.
Yeah.
Have you ever had words with him about it?
No, I mean, he's a cool dude. That's just how he played, man. He just wanted to be on a different level. And wide receivers back, except for Amani, wide receivers back in our day, they were like that. Like T.O. was like that. Chad Ochocinco was like that. They were all like that. Like if you weren't like that, you kind of weren't the man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I was the man though, T. So I don't know.
You were, but you weren't like that. That's my point.
Yeah, I'm joking.
So what about OBJ then? He is certainly that way. The guy wore a watch on the field, but he is a guy that we have not seen flashes of, Tiki. We have not seen the same OBJ, and it's not entirely clear we will.
Well, I mean, injuries take a toll on you, and he's not young anymore. When he was 25 years old, and he's setting the league on fire, and then he hurts an ankle, and then he hurts his knee, and gets traded, and then he hurts his ACL again. It's just like eventually all those injuries catch up to you, and even though you're not old, you get old, and so it's a leg cutter offer on everybody right? You cut your feet out from under you with injuries, and he's just been unlucky in that regard. He's still a great player. It's just there was this ceiling that he had that was like through the stratosphere that he just never could reach because he couldn't stay healthy.
What would you say to a Saquon Barkley? Because, you know, you've been in situations where you come off injuries, you know, where the crowd was booing you for one reason or another.
Yep.
It's not an easy road in New York. I mean, I remember I talked to Daniel Jones this offseason, and I'm like, look, man, I was like, there's nobody that plays in New York that doesn't have to stare down that barrel of you might be gone if you don't perform. So what would you tell to a young Saquon? You know he wants to do well. You know he's the right kind of guy. They talked about all the stuff that he said at halftime to kind of fire the team up. He's one of those type of guys. So what would you say to him?
Well, it's so I remember this happening when some of those bad years that we had too. People would be like, I'm coming to the game because I want to see you do something great. I know we might lose this game, but I want to see you do something great. And so what that turned into in my mind was, all right, I need to make big plays for entertainment purposes, right? But if I do enough of it, and then Toom does it, and Ike does it, and then Shaka does, then you know what? Maybe we'll win. And so it's like compartmentalizing it into mini games as opposed to thinking about the big picture. Because sometimes on those bad teams that we played on, like the Giants kind of are right now, it's hard to think about the big picture. Like the whole game, and then, you know, the month, and then the season. You're just like, man, this is going to be a grind if you try to think of it. Seriously, you know what I mean? Like that year we went 4-12. It's like,
oh, geez,
this is a grind, man. And it's you get out of yourself if you start thinking too big. So you got to like smash it into moments and excel in those moments. That's the advice I would give.
But will this team ever get through this era that they're in?
Look, here's the thing, Dave.
Like there's
this
good
team.
Yeah.
This team is not bad. This isn't a bad team, right? The Jets earlier on this season were bad. This team doesn't know how to win, right? They played 3 games tight. They've lost one because Dexter Lawrence jumped off sides, even though he didn't really jump off sides. The ref saw movement and assumed he was offside, but he wasn't actually off sides. So the Redskins, the Washington football team, got another chance to kick the field goal. I grew up a Redskins fan. My bad. The Washington football team. The Washington football team. My loyalties changed when the paychecks started coming from the Meadowlands.
Really? I didn't know. I knew you were from that area. I didn't know you were.
I grew up in Southwest Virginia, man. And they had a black quarterback that won a
yeah.
I mean, come on. That's right. So, I mean, like they lose that game, they should have won. In Atlanta, they had a lead with 4 minutes to go. They gave up 7 points, 10 points in the last 7 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever it may be. So they should have won that game. Obviously, they won this past weekend. So they're just learning how to win. They're not bad. They easily could be 3-1.
They're not good.
But a lot of teams aren't good, right? You think that Baltimore Ravens are good with Hollywood Brown dropping wide open touchdowns and Lamar Jackson throws to him, and then they're literally a bad call away from losing to Detroit. I love Dan Campbell. He's our dude, man. I give him much love. I love that dude.
Absolutely.
He's crazy as hell. But they were a blown call away from losing to Detroit. This is a team that almost went to the AFC Championship game last year. So it can happen in any team. The Giants need to find out how to fix the little things, and it starts with the quarterback. And I love Daniel Jones. I met him before he was drafted here. He was still at Duke, and it's just demeanor. I'm like, dude, this is like an athletic Eli, right? same demeanor, but the dude is a baller. And it just took some time for Jason Garrett to say, all right, Daniel, just go do your thing, whatever, right? You want to run the ball? Let's run the rock. We've seen him turn into a reliable player. It's not turning the football over. I know people look at the stats. It's like, yeah, he's got some interceptions, but the one at the halftime, who cares about that? One early in the season. Those are the only 2. He's corrected what was wrong with him, and he's balling when they need him to.
Toom.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna go, but anyway, so now you have an opportunity to do games.
Yeah.
What is that experience like for you? Because it's one of those jobs that you wish you would have, but then when we were talking, you left on Friday. I'm like, man, Friday to Sunday, like your whole weekend.
That's right.
What tell us about your thoughts on that.
So I'm only doing 5 games for CBS. So I kind of have the best of both worlds because I'm still like interacting in that NFL locker room football. You know what I mean? I'm in it, but I'm not like 17 weeks grinding every weekend, studying film. But I did realize I missed like watching tape. Remember how you used to go home? The studio at the not the studio, at the stadium, or you'd come home and you'd watch tape and you'd just be sitting there like like I find myself doing that again and I kind of miss it. Like this is fun, right? Seeing like, and I remember my running back coach, Jim Skipper. And by the way, Skip's son is the running back coach at the Buffalo Bills.
No,
I swear to you, dude. I'm out there at practice too, and I'm looking at this dude. I'm like, damn, that is Jim Skipper, but it's not because he's like 40 years younger. I'm like, that he's got to be related. And he comes up to me and he's like, hey, Teak, my pops is your running back coach. I'm like, get the hell out of here.
I remember him.
Yep, it's right. Remember, he was like, so he's now the running back coach.
Yeah, he was our ball boy.
That's right. Now he's the running back coach for the Buffalo Bills. But anyway, so like you get back into this world that's like it was part of my life for a decade in the NFL. That's
where you grew up.
Exactly, it's what you grew up doing. And so to do it again, it like takes me back a little bit. It makes me feel young. And also like all of these kids. So Robbie Anderson, I did the Carolina Panthers Jets game week 1. Robbie Anderson's from New Jersey. And so like we're interviewing him and talking about, how was Sam when he came down? Now he's got all these weapons and what do you expect? Yada, yada, yada. We had this conversation and we get up and he's done. He's like, yo, you and Shockey were my first jerseys and I'm a big fan. I was like, get the hell out of here. So it's just like, it just comes full circle. So in that regard, it's really cool, but it's a ton of work, man. Learning rosters and injuries happen every week. So you're like, oh, this guy's starting. Like, no, he's not starting. It's this guy. You're like, oh crap, I don't know who the hell that is. Yeah. So it's a grind, but I enjoy it. And I'm not doing it for the full season, at least not yet. So I'm enjoying it right now.
Well, it's really tough when you have to do a blowout like you did. That's like doing a preseason game. And Houston's bad enough, so dudes are coming in that you've never even heard of.
That's right. That's right.
But you're working every day because you're doing Tiki and Tierney on Sirius Satellite Radio. And I thought it was interesting. A week or two ago, Shaq came on your show and basically said he'd want Ben Simmons traded if everything he's gone through. I'm curious, getting back to, you just did the Buffalo game, and the biggest story aside from Josh Allen being a badass is Cole Beasley not getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
How would both of you guys handle it if a teammate refused to get vaccinated?
So it's fun. It's interesting. We talked to Cole about this a little bit. And by the way, Cole's a pretty decent rapper, by the way. He's got some
really good.
Yeah. I was
really?
Yeah. Go check it out.
Yeah.
He's got a couple songs that are all right. But we talked to him about it, and we talked to the team about it. And basically they said, like in a locker room, outside the locker room, things like that get really blown up. Like they make it a big deal. But inside the locker room, because he's such a good guy, you know what I mean? And relates to everybody, both, the white guys, the brothers, like he relates to everybody. There was a lightness to it. There was a levity to it. So even though it was a serious topic, inside the locker room, it was handled with levity. Outside of it, it's like, oh my God, how can Cole Beasley do this, put his teammates in danger, and yada yada yada, and what if he gets sick? And so, how would I handle it? I would never try to take the choice away from somebody. Just like LeBron said, I would get vaccinated because I know how important it is to me and my family and those around me, but I would never force that on somebody. And I think that's ultimately what he was trying to say. It just didn't come across the right way.
I mean, honestly, there are personal decisions that people make. I totally disagree with what he says. I totally disagree. But it's a job. Like my job is to play football and do what I could do to help that team win. If he doesn't want to get vaccinated, I kind of have to just be like, whatever. I'm doing my job. Let the people whose job it is to handle that situation, handle it. And let the league handle it, because me getting mad at him is not going to be a great long-term thing. It'll make you feel good in the short term, but in the long term, he's going to be your teammate for the next, 16, 15, 17 weeks, whatever.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a relationship with this person. And as much as I would hate it, and I would probably be on him all the time, knowing me, I love to argue. I'd just be like, oh, come on. And I'd have all these stats. I'd probably do that. But at the end of the day, I think he's going to find out it's going to be much harder for him not to get vaccinated than ultimately just doing it. And the vaccines are safe. So, I mean.
Yeah, you're right. Toom, you remember this as well as I do. We had
we did.
All of us were in media and could talk and had opinions, like Glenn Parker, even Jay Feely. We'd have political discussions in the locker room. And it wasn't yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, good job. It was debates. Right?
Yeah.
Howard would get us in the hot box, put us in the hot box and just talk trash to each other.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think it's healthy when people when they have differing opinions. It's healthy to talk about it. But Toom is exactly right. At the end of the day, if you don't like your teammate, he's still your teammate, right?
Yeah.
And he relies on he relies on you, and you rely on him on Sundays. And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
You talk about all the media savvy guys that were on that team. One guy I would not put in that sentence was Eli. And here he is. That's because he didn't show it, Dave. He never showed that. He was like a clown, like a clowner. He would clown people all the time, dude.
Yeah.
Pranks, but he was not. Prankster. He was by no means media savvy. Have you seen this Monday Night Football show that he's doing with Peyton? I'll just admit, I think it's terrible. And I love Peyton Manning. I'm a Bronco fan. And I'm a big fan of Eli the human, but I just don't understand it. It bores me to tears. My man Brian Greasy is outstanding on Monday night. Do you guys like Eli, the broadcaster?
Honestly, I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it.
I don't mind it, Dave. I don't mind it. I've seen it a few times, but it's intermittent. I'll go in there sometimes with him and Peyton, and it's really because I know Eli. We both know Eli. Peyton, I know also because his wife went to school with me and Rondé, so we've hung out with Peyton a couple times, and he's awesome, right? But there is a media savvy to Eli that I think he didn't show it maybe on purpose, right? But it's there because look at his brothers. Right, Cooper is awesome, right?
Yeah.
And Peyton has been the face of the NFL for 2 decades, whatever it was. So you knew it had to. And Archie's like Mr. Polish, right? So you know it had to be there. He just chose not to show it. He chose not to be vulnerable when he was a player with on the team, but it was always there, right? Guys loved him because he's just one of the dudes, man. He never was a diva. He never was I'm the MVP. I'm the MVP. Like what? He was never that. So it's just there. You're starting to see it a little bit more now that he's out of the game. People
want to think there's a beef between the two of you. I mean, because of some silly out of context comments in 2007. Are you friendly? You and Eli?
Of course we're friendly. We were friendly right after that. But people in media like to make enemies of people. I don't know why.
I know why. They need something to talk about.
That's right. That's right. It's lasting. And now that was how many years ago was that?
It was 07.
No. Oh.
So 14 years ago?
Yeah.
14 years ago. People are making a big deal still about something that was blown over immediately between he and Eli and I. In fact, after the Super Bowl that you guys won, Toomer and those guys won in 07, 08, that Super Bowl was, I was working for NBC and I did an interview with Eli after the game, and it was awesome, right? He was there is no beef between us, even though people like to reference that frequently. I had a lot of pride in those guys, Toom included, because it's I knew everybody, right? Just like when my brother won a Super Bowl in 02, it was just this pride I felt for this family, you know what I mean? So that's. People like to position me as losing out on that. And I did obviously lose out on a ring, but I still felt like this great sense of accomplishment for that team because they were amazing. All those guys were amazing.
I
We
would
got a
take
second place ring.
Yes, yes, yes.
I would take the Barber brothers in a media cage match over the Manning brothers. That's all I'm saying. I love them both as quarterbacks, but
They're witty as hell. You're discounting their wit, right? They have a wit, and it's like that, and you don't think it's coming, but it's like that.
wait, did you see the double bird?
I
Yes.
saw the double birds.
But I think that was on
Yeah.
purpose. Like he's like, you can blur this out, right? in real
On live
life.
TV.
I know.
On live TV. Yeah, just blur that out. No, it doesn't work that way. Yeah.
But
So
you know
you
what?
think that
Like
was on purpose?
nobody hates Eli. Like who hates Eli? Seriously, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe the Patriots fans, but who
Maybe
hates
Tom
Eli?
Brady.
Yeah, probably not even Tom Brady because he's got
No,
7.
Tom's a great guy.
Right? He doesn't
Yeah.
care.
He's like, yeah, I missed 2 out of 2.
So I don't think
Tom's doing all right. He's got his 7 rings. All right, we got to ask you about your cannabis story. And you are, I would call you an advocate. I'm not sure if you would call yourself that. You are an investor.
Yeah.
You are the co-founder of Grove Group Management, a volunteer on the advisory board, New Jersey based rather, Cannabis Education and Research Institute. What
Yeah.
brought you around to that side of the cannabis discussion?
Well, originally it was just a business opportunity, and you saw the winds of change happening. You saw that certain municipalities were trending favorably. You saw these national polls that said 68 or 70% of America is for legalization of cannabis, even if it's just medicinal, and that's starting to trend towards recreation now. And so originally it was just a business opportunity, but then you start to think about all of the use cases, especially for guys like me and Toom that played a violent sport. And I know guys, I won't mention their names. I know Toom knows guys as well. They go play a game, they get done, they're beat up, they're probably subconcussed, they have aches and pains. They would soothe their ailings with a bottle, right? And it wouldn't be like a drink or two, it'd be like the bottle. And that's the worst thing that you can do. And so when you start thinking about natural alternatives that can be used to bind with your endocannabinoid system and give you relief, either physical or mental or emotional relief, why wouldn't this be something that athletes in particular would gravitate towards? It's why when I see stuff like what's the sprinter, Sonia
Richardson.
Richardson.
Yeah.
It's a crime that they banned her because of marijuana use, and maybe she was doing it recreationally, but who cares? And so I think that the winds of change have been coming for a long time, and I saw it as a business opportunity. The reason I got involved with SERI, the non-for-profit organization that you're alluding to, is because there are still organizations at the time, like the NFL, that were punishing athletes for marijuana use, even whether it was medicinal or recreational. They were punishing that. That has now ceased. And the one thing that we want to focus on is forget the rec side, these guys having fun and partying and things of that nature, but people who genuinely need relief, and cannabis can give it to them without taking other types of opioids or steroids or other damaging drugs to your livers and bodily functions. And so that's why I got involved and became an advocate and invested as well.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, I just remember a lot of opioids being given out when I was, especially when I had my knee surgeries. And I just remember, all the people that would come by that wouldn't even talk to me ordinarily. They're all of a sudden, want to know my name, want to talk to me in the locker room, all because they know that I had a fresh sleeve of Vicodin. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the things that really scared me off. Did you ever, I don't know anybody when I was playing that ever really partook in it, but do you?
Yeah, during our era, no.
Yeah.
I don't remember guys, because if you got clipped, you were like
you were
the Ricky Williams story, right?
Yeah.
It scared all of us. I swear to you, too, these guys would rather do steroids. Players would rather do steroids than smoke weed. And I'm not even joking. They would rather do steroids than smoke weed because you get clipped and then you're in the program forever.
Oh,
Right?
that's right. Yeah. The program.
They test you forever, like every day or every 6 days or whatever the number was.
They would test you on vacations.
Yes, you would be home.
You go on vacation. Yeah, they go on vacation. They'd say, "Oh, you got to report to here for that stuff." Yeah, substance abuse.
Know, I don't know if you remember, the first day they test you is 420. The National
I didn't know
Cannabis
that.
holiday. And yeah, Calvin Johnson told me that because he said he smoked every week.
Yeah.
During his career and didn't get clipped.
Yeah, the only you know when the test is coming. So as long as you're smart enough not to, have it in your system that week or a couple of weeks prior to that, you could do it all season long. But you just kind of never really know. There were the rules weren't as defined as they have become as of late. And it's just, I'm glad, because now I know guys that play. Chris Long, my good buddy from UVA, who was in with the Rams and then won a Super Bowl with both Philly and New England. He was like, dude, I smoke all the time. It is what it is, right? He's very open about it, that it helped him through his career, like manage the pain through his career. I will never forget this. Ronnie Barnes came up to us, me in particular, because I had a bad knee. I tore my PCL my rookie season. So I was always on Indocin and Naprosyn and Vicodin, and I was always on this stuff. And he came up to me one day, I think it was year 5 or so, and he's like, "We're gonna take a blood sample because we want to test your liver function." And I was like, "Why? Well, why?" He's like, "Because you've taken this amount of over the years." I'm like, "All right, don't give me that shit ever again." I was like, I don't want any of that. I stopped taking it from there. The hardest thing I would take was Advil from then on in. But when I realized that the damage that it potentially could have been doing to my body just to get the swelling off, my knees would just swell for no reason. And give me an Indocin, give me an Naprosyn. I stopped it immediately.
So you stopped taking from your 5th year probably to your 10th year?
Yeah, probably 6 to 10. All I took was Advil, and that was it.
Okay, so how do you go from having no PCL, your knee swelling up, to now you're running marathons, half marathons?
Yeah.
How does that work? Are you a CBD? Are you THC? Are you?
No, I'm no THC, but I do take CBD supplements. But really, just to back up real quick to him, the reason that I was able to get off all that stuff is because year 7, which was Coughlin's first year, right? Year 7 for me. Yeah, year 7 for me was Coughlin's first year. The summer before that, I met Joe Carini. May he rest in peace. He just passed away. But he was my strength and conditioning coach, who was a power lifter. And so I was able to manage the laxity in my joint in my knee because I didn't have a PCL and everything else, because I got so big and strong. Remember how big and strong I got? And just powerful. So Carini injury proofed me. And I felt fantastic the last 3 years of my career. And interestingly, all that muscle memory, even though I've shrunk, I'm only 190 pounds now, down from 212 when I played, but all that muscle memory is still there. And I still work out a little bit. So I'm able to run marathons and not have any issues. And I do take some supplements, CBD supplements, that just give me even if it's placebo, it's homeostatic, right? I feel like my body is in control without having to put dangerous substances in it.
So why don't you try cannabis, my friend? There's no way you haven't tried an edible, Tiki.
Well, I've heard that edibles don't have an off switch. So
you gotta be very careful.
Yeah, I'm not saying I've never had edibles, because I have. I'm just saying it's not a regular part of my existence. You know what I mean? I imbibe in vino.
So Tiki, how do you see yourself getting more involved? Do you see yourself staying in kind of the advocacy role, or do you see yourself in an investor role, or do you see yourself, what do you see yourself doing in the industry?
Well, I live in Jersey too, and so just like you, and for a while it was a cluster here, mainly because the government, either the executive and the legislative side, didn't know how how to process this, like who was going to take credit for legalizing marijuana in the state. And so what they ended up doing is pushing it to referendum. They put it up for vote, and obviously it overwhelmingly passed, but there's still so many regulations based on old, like on the books rules. Like any cannabis operation has to be equidistant, at least medicinal, has to be equal distant in the state apart. So in order for me to open an operation, I'd have to put it in like, I don't know, like like way the hell up north, because there's so many concentrated down in the south. And so the business opportunity isn't as vast as it once was, unless you get into the supply chain side of it, like the growth and the transport and et cetera. And so the advocacy route has been a way through Siri that I've stayed involved, doing a couple of things: research, statistics. Like we're trying to reach out to the NFL so that they can have verifiable data on the efficacy and ultimately the effectiveness of CBD and CBD products and THC products for the health and wellness of their athletes. So those are the type of things that we've been working on, and I enjoy it because I feel like I'm helping out my brothers that are coming behind me, who, oh, by the way, all grew up smoking weed, all are doing it now, and are looking for a way to like this push the stigma away. Right? There's still a stigma, like it's fading, but there's still a little bit of a stigma about it. You know what I mean? And so I think if there's research behind it, it blows that completely out the window.
Do you applaud where the NFL is? They have evolved quite a bit. They're certainly not
Most definitely
where I think they should be, but you do. You
yeah,
like
most definitely. I mean, they are now treating this, for those who don't know, the NFL is now treating marijuana use, THC, marijuana use, as they would alcohol. So as long as you don't do something stupid, like have a handle of vodka, get behind the wheel of a car and crash into a telephone pole, then you're fine. Like you can go have a couple martinis, call an Uber to drive you home, and it doesn't matter. Just like you can go smoke a couple joints, call an Uber to drive you home, and you can be fine. But if you become subject to a legal investigation because of your use of marijuana, just like if you became subject to a legal investigation because of your use of alcohol, that's when the NFL puts you back in that program that Amani and I were alluding to.
And do you see Josh Gordon back in the league? You like that? That's just another step in their evolution.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, he keeps making missteps. I mean, I really like his fight to get back in this game.
Yeah.
But he keeps having the same issues over and over. And it's not always marijuana. I think this last one was actually alcohol, because he's in that program that we're
the program.
about. Yeah. The program is it's rough, it's harsh, and it's trying to protect the guys, right? You know this, Tim. It's trying to protect guys.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he's back. I just hope he doesn't take another misstep.
So you talk about the stigma, and it is still alive and well. What would it take to change it? At least, I mean, I assume there are a lot of current stars in the NFL that use cannabis.
Yeah.
Could one of them come out? I mean, my assumption is Patrick Mahomes does. That's just my assumption. He was very supportive, very vocally of Sha'Carri Richardson.
Yes.
And that's the entire reason that I assume.
That's a good extrapolation.
Yeah. I mean, so would that change the stigma if someone like that were to come out and say,
honestly, is impressive and powerful as a player as he is, especially given the length and the monetary value of his contract. Yes, but I think it needs to be higher than him. It needs to be an owner, who I'm sure some of them partake. Right?
I tell you what. I tell you what. When I went to my first dispensary, it was like the UN. Everybody was coming in. You had people from all over. So it's funny because I was talking to a mayor of a town today, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be good in this town." And I was like, "I'm telling you, first time I had experience in a dispensary, it brings everybody, all comers. It brings everybody together." Yeah. And so I think you would be very naive if you thought that there's not some or more. The majority of the owners. The majority of the owners are definitely
Yeah, I
partaking.
mean, yeah, but to them, it's a moral thing, right? And so as soon as that changes,
Yeah.
then I like, or someone in that vein, a CEO of some Fortune 500 company, like as soon as that happens, it all gets destigmatized. It just be like one of them saying, "Yeah, I smoke Camels. Yeah, I like the lights. It is what it is."
Yeah.
Right? And
Well,
so,
Jobs wasn't Jobs. He partook,
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
he? Steve
yeah.
Jobs. But so where do you think the NFL should go? Like, what is your ideal policy about cannabis
I think I
in the
think
NFL?
they're I think they're on the right track right now. They've decriminalized it, so it's you're not going to get punished for smoking marijuana. So that's step one. I think the next step is an advocacy role, just like we saw gambling start to become a part of the vernacular, the shield sharing in the
Mm-hmm.
NFL. I think when advocacy for the medicinal benefits of marijuana get tested and the efficacy, as I mentioned before, is proven, then the NFL should get behind it. Because it's not just, I mean, think about the fans of the NFL, right? Some of these people are in hard working blue collar parts of this country, and they're in steel mills or mines or whatever. They're working with their hands, just like got arthritis. Like the way to like combat that in a healthy way is with CBD products or THC products if you're looking for the psychedelic effect as well. And so the NFL is perfectly positioned because that's their audience, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's perfectly positioned to be the advocate, and it's going to take time. I mean, I don't see this happen in the next half a decade. Maybe more than that, but I think in time that's where they'll go because their players are already there.
I think like gambling, right?
Yeah.
Once they figure out they can profit from it,
that's right. That's exactly right.
Everybody wants to be the NFL's marijuana or marijuana. Everybody's cannabis partner.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think the NFL has an opportunity to twofold: be an advocacy for everybody, but also help their players because
that's the biggest one. That's the biggest one.
That liver issue is real. I remember when Alonzo Mourning was one of the first players that I remember who had really bad liver and kidneys because of these the anti-inflammatories, and I started scaling back myself. So I think that we should protect your players, player safety, anti-inflammatory. And the mental aspect of it.
That's right.
The NFL has. The players should be not guinea pigs, but they should use all the information and help all these medical people who are actually trying to, for the first time in a long time, study what this plan actually can do. And the NFL has a great opportunity to be play a big role in that.
Yeah, you're right. They have what is it every year? 1,600? Is that what it is? That's the number of players. About 1,600, maybe a little bit more than that. 1,700 guys to not test on because I don't want to use that words either, like testing and guinea pig. I don't want to use that, but to
get them
use as a control sample, like a controlled sample, right? They have the ability to do that. They should, as long as they don't like make these guys feel uncomfortable that they're asking, hey, do you smoke, right? Like make it comfortable. Don't make it like, are you smoking? I don't want to get you in trouble, right? As long as it's not like, hey man, tell us about this. Why does it benefit you? Why do you feel good when you do this?
Well, first we need to get you two. We need to get you two to enjoy an edible together. I mean, it seems natural. You guys played together for 10 years, man. I mean, I just want to be a fly on the wall for that.
That's right.
Oh man,
you were what? Toom, you were 12 years. You were 1 year before me and 1 year after me. Or were you 13?
I was 2 years after you.
Oh, that's right.
1 year before you, and 2 years. I was 13.
Yeah, you did 13.
Yeah.
Could cannabis have prolonged your career then, Tiki? Would that have been something that?
Maybe. I mean, part of the reason I retired is that I was just starting to get beat up, man. In 2005, I led the league in touches. I mean, I'm little. I'm not Derrick Henry. I had 400. I had 411 touches back in 2005, and it wore on me. And so 06, it was just like, man, I'm done, man. I just can't do it anymore. Physically, I was just wearing out, and the big plays were there were still big plays, but they were like shorter big plays. Like 50-yard runs were becoming 20-yard runs. And it just felt harder. And so I was just ready to do something else. And I didn't think we were going to be good. I mean, my last year, which was the year before you guys won, Toom, we were 8-8, right? Like we squeaked into the playoffs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We were 8-8. That's right.
Yeah.
We were 8-8. And then the next year, it was just like 9-7. Maybe like they snuck into the playoffs, and you guys got hot, man. It was awesome to watch.
Yeah. I think we're 10.
Maybe you were 10-6.
We're 10-6. Yeah, 10-6. But I remember one of the reasons why I stopped was mentally, like I was 35 years old and everybody in the league is young.
That's right.
I'm walking in the locker room and they're talking funny and they're dressing funny. And I'm like, man, I feel old. Like I started feeling old and I was only 35. So, I felt like it was, I could imagine a guy like you who's, very, like I remember used to read the Wall Street journals all the time. And used to be, and Tiki was a guy that, like, if somebody was talking to Tiki and they started like using language that he didn't really, he wasn't really trying to pick up any slang. Yeah. He was like, okay. He just like, all right. And just walk away. And, some people thought a certain way of it. I totally understood. I understood, man. Like you took this education seriously. You had like all these books in your locker and all this stuff. And everybody always making fun of it. And Tiki was one of the first dudes to wear the tight clothes too.
That's right. And
we'd all make fun of him. We'd be like, Tiki, we can see your pulse through your pants.
All right, Tiki, it's your turn. Tell us about the Amani that we didn't get to know.
I mean, Amani. Toom was chill. Toom was always been chill, but he was chill in your face. I remember this all the time because you mentioned this earlier. And he was talking about, I forget what we were talking about. The vaccine stuff. How, he would ask him questions. If Toom had it in his mind that he was right and you were wrong, he would like not leave it. He's like down your throat, like, but you know what? If you did this, if you did it, you're like, yo, back the fuck up, man. Toom was all like, he was persistent Toom. Yeah, that's why we love Toom.
Yeah,
he'd get flagged for taunting for that shit.
Oh no, Toom was the best, man. He'd get away. He was so good he could get away with pushing off.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a way to do it.
I know, but nobody does it.
What were you saying there?
He gets away with pushing off, like offensive pass interference. He could do it and not get caught for it. We watch it on tape all the time and be like, dude, you're cheating. How are you doing that?
Didn't extend. We do got to wrap this up because it's Toom's bedtime. I'm curious though. I am curious your guys' take, and I want to get both your takes on that. And I'll express my opinion. That ridiculous taunting penalty that we're seeing each and every week has become one of the stories of the NFL. I have no idea what they're trying to accomplish. Tiki, what do you think of it?
Well, the owners and I think some of the coaches, they hate to see it. Like they hate to see guys get in each other's faces and, cross it out, it's incomplete and, spiking the ball in their face. And I get that to an extent. But it's the lack of definition of what is taunting that bothers me a little bit. So last night on Monday Night Football, the Chargers and the Raiders were playing, and I don't know when this is airing, but the Monday Night Football game from week 4.
Yeah.
Yep. Waller catches his first pass of the game, and he's frustrated because he hasn't caught a pass all day. And it's a 15 or 20-yard pass, and he goes to the sideline. He's not looking at anybody. Like the two defenders are behind him. He's on the Chargers bench, and he just spikes it, right? And they call the taunting foul. And so the problem is it's a very subjective call, because you can't know intent, right? Some intent is obvious, like when a guy's in someone's mug, like like that's intent. You can see his intent. But when intent is ambiguous, you can't throw that foul because it's a huge foul. It's 15 yards on sportsmanlike conduct. And so I understand why they're trying to legislate it out of the game. And early on, it was plentiful. I mean, we were getting, I think there was 10 or 11 of them in the first couple of weeks of the season. Now there's only been about, I think, 2 or 3 over the last couple of weeks. And so they accomplished what they wanted to do. They've effectively changed behavior of the guys on the field, which is a good thing. But I still think there's too much ambiguity, there's too much subjectivity to that call for referees to make, and it's impacting the outcomes of games. And when refs are impacting the outcomes of games, it's a bad thing.
Who got hurt by taunting? I love it.
No, I just feel like when you play football, you're not like we are now, sitting down, talking, calm. You're in another frame of mind. You're a different person. And so, like, I remember watching touchdowns that I scored or do a good plays that I did. And then, like, you're just like, oh, what did I do? Oh, it's like, and you cringe. You're like, what did I do? Oh my God, that's so bad. You know, because you're not thinking. It's like primitive. It's, you know,
That's a great point.
It's not like you're sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to do this. It just happens. When you sit there screaming, it was embarrassing for me. So I was like, oh God, what did I do? And then just like Tiki said, it's like, you can't get in, like if you're asking a referee, not only to call the games that are moving as fast, and see if it's inbounds, out of bounds, pushing, holding. Now you're going to ask them to get inside the players' heads and get to and figure out what the players are thinking. That is just a bridge too far. Players are, you know, he just like Waller. He was frustrated. Boom, he threw it. And other 2 players weren't even paying attention. But it's like,
that's right.
Even for us to like have this conversation, it's just ridiculous. Because then you see other sports, like you see hockey, you see basketball, you see all this stuff, and there's nothing. It's like, I feel like sometimes the NFL, it's like a fraternity, you know, you go to the fraternity parties, they make the rules, and they know people are always going to come to the parties, so they can just say whatever they want, and people are going to come anyway. So I just feel like it's doing more harm than good, and fans like seeing emotion because the fans are emotional.
That's right.
So you want players to go and play and be like robots, like great touchdown. No, I just made a good play. You know, just tap 5. Because I remember watching
high five,
games,
man. High five.
I remember watching games from the 80s, and it was like, yo, that guy just made like an incredible play. And he gets up and he doesn't do anything. He like looks down, and I'm like, man, you got to show a little more emotion, get more excited, let everybody know how excited you are. And so I think it's good for the game, but I think it can go too far. But I think legislating it is like, it's just you don't want to damper players' emotion. I mean, that's half the fun of the game.
And by the way, Dave, there was already a mechanism in place for taunting, right? If you did something egregious, you get a personal foul or an unsportsmanlike contact. It was already there. So this isn't a new rule. It's just a point of emphasis. So now they're taking something that they were already doing and like making it hypersensitive. And that's the problem. It's an emotional sport. It's a physical sport. I mean, where else in the world could you go? I mean, other sports, obviously, boxing and hockey, but you'll beat the crap out of somebody for 60 minutes. Seriously.
Yeah.
Right? And not be emotional about it. You got to. Right? And John Randall was playing now. You remember him, the two from Vikings.
Yeah.
That dude would not shut up. His mouth ran for the entirety of the game. Even when he was on the sideline, you could hear his ass. It's like, John, shut up. Right? he'd be called for a flag 15 times a game. Seriously, he'd get kicked out of games because he just never would stop. And it's not like he was taunting. That was just him. Right?
Yeah. So, it's like Dick Bucket.
Yes.
Dick Buck's the same way. Like he would get them and he'd put his finger in people's faces. You can't do that anymore.
I know.
But I mean, people loved it when Dick Buckus did it. So I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either.
We're all for taunting. We're all for cannabis. I guess we'll wrap it up with a
high five.
High five, baby.
Good to see you, boys. Amani,
a real high five.
Barber.
High five.
Well played. That's a good way to end it. Good to see you, boys. Amani Toomer, Tiki Barber, 2 of the all-time great Giants. Oh, by the way, is Tiki a Hall of Famer, Toom?
I mean, you can't not put Tiki. I don't understand why Tiki's not in. It really bothers me. It really does.
I don't know.
We agree on all of it. You're a Hall of Famer.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I know my brother's getting in, so I mean, at least I'll be there, and like half my zygote that split and became him.
But you know what? They don't like it when players leave on their own. They don't like it.
Yeah,
you got to go out on your shield.
That's true. It's a good point. On their shield, you mean?
On their shield, yeah, their shield. They'll tell you when you're done. You're not done with you. We'll tell you when you're done.
Well, we think you'll get in. We'll enjoy that day. Good to see
Appreciate
you guys.
Boys. Take care, guys.
All right.